Hey everybody, Bill in Virginia, and starting off this week's video with a couple of little updates. I've been getting a lot of things from the U.S. Postal Service this week, which has been nice. One thing that I got and I'm starting to work on is I got the foam core board. So some of the flats that I had recently bought, I'm starting to glue down. These will be used in different areas over on the HO scale layout. And then I also got in the eBay box that I've been waiting for, which had the design preservation kits as well as a bunch of other stuff. So a little bit of a mail call in addition to the other stuff with the video. So everything that you see here came in one box. I was able to pick it up at a buy it now offer that was on eBay, and I spent all of 80% of $100, including shipping, to get everything that you see. So I thought that was a pretty good deal. I've got a total of 9 design preservation kits, complete kits, still in the original packaging. You know, I've got a bunch of old-timer arch bar trucks, which I may use in some areas. The hand cars and the air compressor, which I thought was really cool. You know, Woodland Scenics detail kit, a variety of other little odds and ends here, including a grab iron bending fixture, which is pretty neat. Some vehicles, which again are age appropriate for my layout, which is really nice. Some corrugated aluminum sheets, wish I would have had those when I was doing the Quonset huts on the end scale here a while ago. Some ground throws, and then a bunch of KD couplers. All are unopened packages. So a pretty good eBay purchase. You know, it took a long time to get here due to the backup in the Postal Service, but once it did, I'm very happy. So some of the design preservation kits, the pieces I'm going to be using to kit bash and make some flats for the HO scale on some of the backdrops. Some of the other stuff I'm just going to go put on the layout tonight as I'm playing out here. But making some progress. So we should see some more as I continue with this video. Well, Wednesday evening, and I'm starting to do the background buildings that are going up on the backdrops. So here's 2 of the 9 design preservation kits that I just got. So I'm going to make one fairly long building to kind of go right there where you see the tank sitting on that piece of the backdrop. And then the others and just other areas in that same industrial space. I've got some other things in the mix here. Can move that out of the way, flip it over, and I am gluing on some of the printed flats that I got off eBay a while ago, putting them on the black foam core board. And so far they're turning out pretty good. I've got a few of them cut already and on the HO scale layout, and I'll show what those look like here in just a second as I get over. So those are the end scale buildings that I already have on the foam core board. I've got them cut and just sort of sitting there. I don't have them glued in place, but I think they're going to look pretty good. A little bit of forced perspective to make them look like they're sitting back from the tracks. And some of the ones that I'm working on will go over there too. But once I got them on the foam core, I had an idea of just making some photocopies of them up on the color printer I have in the home office. Should have done that before I put them on the foam core board. You know, it's amazing what hindsight is. But over from this angle, and let's see if I can zoom in a little bit on that one. You can see how that building looks. I did a double layer of the foam board to kind of make it stand out a little bit. Then I used a strip of the photocopied building to put on the side to hide the foam board. All right, now it's looking pretty good. You know, it stands out from the others. You can kind of see the edge. What I'll do on the left side is I will use vegetation and other things to kind of make the side blend a little better with the background. So some trees just to kind of make it look like it disappears. Over on this side of the building, I did the same thing. A little bit harder to see just due to shadow, but I've got the building that way so it looks natural with the other building beside it. Those two buildings will be just the original thickness. I will paste on a little bit of paper that I did photocopy the middle building so that it's got that up on that upper right corner. Building on the right, I will do the side, and then I'm going to do a double layer of foam core on the next building that comes out. Again, just to kind of make it stand out a little bit this direction. So it's coming along, and I like the results so far. We'll see how it looks once I get them done. I get them fastened to the backdrop, and then get some scenery done around them. Thursday night, more backdrop work. I've got the foam board added to the back of the scrap metal place. I got it just setting up against the backdrop. I'm going to use some foam board adhesive, I think, to glue those onto the backdrop. That's pretty much where that building is going to be, so I can start doing additional scenery around it. I can take the backdrop off, take it over to the bench. Coming around this way, I've been doing a fair amount on these backdrops. So I've got the double layer of foam board behind the building on the left. I've got the glued piece put on the sides from the photocopies that I made yesterday. Foam board is on the rest of them here. And then I've got sort of the double thick with the buildings there on the right side. Same thing, took photocopies and cut some pieces off just to kind of get the sides to match. So I like how that looks. Since that's N scale, I'm going to put a few trees and a few objects in front to sort of make it give that forced perspective a little bit more depth. And then to kind of help with the illusion, I'm going to put some N scale vehicles, in front. And we'll go from there. But I can take this backdrop off, and I can glue those to the foam board as well. I've got some other buildings that are in process right now, and there'll be a couple of more added on the other side of the parking lot for the teen track area and the station area. So not many, just a couple. Again, N scale over there. I want to kind of make it look like they're pushed back a little bit farther. And then I'll add in additional trees and some other details just to kind of give them a hide. But I'm happy with how that's looking. To see them, you have to be on the side of the layout that I'm on now. The HO scale layout is much higher than the N scale. So I do not have to hide the seam as well as I do on the N scale. If you're operating or viewing from this side, I can't see the seam. I can see as I get closer to the foam board part of the filler strip, but not the seam. So I'm going to not worry about covering the seam as much as I did on the N scale, which, I'll pan around here. N scale is quite a bit lower, more than a foot, so I can see the seam if I don't camouflage it. So that's why I went to the extra effort on the N scale to hide the seams. So, each layout has its own character, has its own little bit of stuff that I'm doing. So it's been fun. It's been definitely a good learning experience. It's Friday night, and out in the garage after work. Had some snow last night, and we're going to have some freezing rain tomorrow. Good weekend to just stay in the garage and have some fun. So I've been gluing additional flats on foam core board. See what I've got there. And what I've done with these is I have photocopied them. So I've got a photocopy of those. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take pieces of it, basically cut strips off on the sides, and then I'm going to add some white glue right in here and just put them on. It works pretty good. That'll give me a finished looking edge on both sides that no matter which way I put these buildings, there's going to be a little bit of an exposure, so I'm still going to see that area. I'll see the edge of a building. However it happens to work out, and what my final layout is fine. It doesn't make any difference. What I'm probably going to do is I'm probably going to cut some white paper and glue it to the top of the buildings, all of them, before I actually glue them in place on the layout. Then I can take and paint them a little bit, make them look more like a roof, probably grimy black for the most part. Maybe a little bit of concrete, grimy concrete, aged concrete along some of these. A little bit of variation. It's not going to be something you're really going to notice, but it might look pretty good. So anyway, I'm going to cut these, and I'm going to get these glued up and then set them in place and just see how it looks. You gotta love painter's tape. Easy for building assembly, at least keep it in position as you're doing test fits. Yeah, not too bad here. You can see some of the sidewall detail. I'll touch up some of that stuff with some chalks just to kind of hide some of those little gaps and maybe a little dab of paint, but overall, not too bad. What I'm going to do is I'm putting those strips on now for the sort of the roof. Got to put those on here, put them on the other ones, and then I can glue them to the backdrop and get started with other scenery. Well, strips cut and fit for the roofing. Like I said, I'll use chalks and some other stuff to touch them up, but it doesn't look too bad. It kind of blends it in a little bit. Takes away that look of the foam board, and I just use strips off the photocopies from each of the buildings so that the top sort of matches the front and the facade of the building. A couple of spots, like over here on this factory, I had some paper that had some of the dark gray just from the photocopy process on it, and I put that on there, and it actually looks pretty good. Looks like tar paper, so I'm happy with that. I'm ready to install these on the layout. The other two I've got sitting over there, I've already done them completely. So next step, take the backdrop off and add these in. All right, building flats are added to the backdrop. I'll let this sit overnight, and then I'm going to come back in and I'll start doing some ground scenery, ground cover, adding some trees, adding some details, some N-scale vehicles that I'm going to actually glue on so they don't fall off when I move it, but this is looking pretty good. Yeah, I'm happy with how that looks. Saturday morning in Richmond, and an ice storm is going on outside, but the garage is comfortably warm. And I've been out doing some work on this backdrop this morning. So I've added more vegetation, just kind of fill in a few of the little gaps there. I've added quite a bit more material now to this scene. So again, this is N scale, but I'm using forced perspective to add it to the HO scale layout. So I have come back in, I've used some Woodland Scenics asphalt paint, painted a little bit in there, glued some N-scale vehicles to the backdrop, added a little bit of vegetation right at the seam. As I noted earlier, if you're on the other side of the HO scale layout and you're looking over, you're not going to see the seam. So I'm using forced perspective so that you kind of get a different view of this from a distance. So we'll put on the layout here in a minute and see how it works. So added some N-scale power poles coming across. And same things, added a couple of little trees here and there. That truck is glued to the backdrop. Again, more ground cover and a little bit more trees just on the edge. So next step is to put it in place, see how it looks. So here's the backdrop back in place. And I think that forced perspective actually looks pretty decent. It's set back from the tracks a few inches, but with it being N scale, it gives it a look like it's down a little bit of a hill, which, relative to the track being up on Cork, it is. It looks pretty good to my eye. The details stand out, but it's farther back. So, I think that's fairly effective. Let's see how it looks with a train running through that particular scene. So I'm going to bring up this RS unit and let it kind of go to the end of the track. I think I'm going to have to switch the layout up a little bit. I need to put that 4x8 section over on this end of this 4x8 section so I can have trains actually run fully past that particular backdrop. I think that'll be kind of fun. It'll look good. I've still got detail work to do on it. I've got crates, drums, barrels, a little bit of debris. Not a whole lot since, again, standing on this side of the layout, you don't see a lot of it, which is exactly what I want. I think later today I'm going to start working on the scrapyard backdrop flat over there. I'll get that finished, start getting some details in on it. And then I'm going to come over and then I'm going to run some N-scale trains and have some coffee and just enjoy. And hope my power doesn't go out as the day progresses and the freezing rain keeps falling. But anyway, that's it for this one. Keep having fun on your layouts.